What I'll do in the next few minutes is give a few demonstrations on using the more common hand planes I use in my own furniture making studio. So I'll start with, for example, a number 4.5 smoother. So as you might have noticed, I'm left-handed. I'm usually ambidextrous for most tools, but with hand planes I work a lot better using my left hand. So I'll go ahead and use my left hand. So let's lubricate this. Scribble some paraffin wax along, and I'll just. So it needs to. The nice thing about these planes is you can actually quickly adjust the depth of the blade below the sole. So I can just dial it in. You can see, I can adjust the angle. There's a little adjuster here for the angle of the blade. So again, this is a 4.5, and I prefer this over a 4 because it has a wider sole and or a wider blade, and I can just it's a little more efficient for me to use it. So I'll put this aside, and I'll show you, for example, a number 7 jointer. I would normally start with a jointer, like I said earlier, just to even out the bumps and hollows before even tackling it with a smoother, because the length of the plane is ideal to actually even out the surface in preparation for a smaller plane such as a smoother. So I'll put that aside. This is a 4 plane I can use. It's considerably, it's only at one size less. It's number 6 versus a number 7, but it's considerably lighter. This is so that's a little thick. So the adjustment mechanism on this is a little different. It's a Norris adjustment, so I'll just, there you go. I've been using this board for every planing operation. For all these segments, it must be the smoothest board around at this point. So I'll just adjust that a little more. And I also wanted to show you my. Yeah, this is a little different. I'm not going to get into this right now because I need to get a plane hammer, but it's not set. I retracted the blade on the smoother, and maybe this one. Something else I wanted to mention is I skew the hand planes when I do my planing. The skewing actually reduces the effort, and it reduces any possibility of tear outs. So by skewing, I mean they just tilt the plane over at an angle. It's a fairly well-known technique to reduce tear out and just improve the actual glide of the plane. That would be that plane. And I can use my small smoother. I'll just give you a demonstration of how a smoother works. What I'll do is I'll replace this board with a smaller board. I'll use this board here. You know what? Let me try this hand plane here. Okay. And then I'll use a small smoother. I'm not sure if it's adjusted, but I'll find out fairly quickly. So there you go. And I need to lubricate this guy. Notice I have it skewed. So this is ideal for small components and anything, any edges that are actually narrower than the actual width of the blade. So for example, it's ideal for this particular one. You can see the width of the shaving is exactly almost the width of the board. So it's tackle it on. And again, I have it skewed, so that's a fairly thick shaving. So I'll back blade off a little bit. Something else I wanted to show you is, I mentioned the planing stop I use for almost all my operations, but I do have another planing stop that I use just as often. And this is a bird's mouth stop. So this, I'll just give you a demonstration of this one. Just actually fits in the bench holes, like so. And then I just fit this in here. I can lock it in, but I normally don't because it's much quicker for me not to. But this is fantastic for working the edges of boards, because the actual boards are, the typical board fits in this little slot. So you can use the lower angle plane also, but this is, I saved this plane for end grain. So block planes are ideal with small smoothers. For example, if I have some very small component, I can just trim it while I'm holding it in my hand, save some time. This is a fairly large piece, but a small piece of wood, like so, for example. At the end, the edge of this, for example, I need to go in the right direction, but I'm not going to really talk about the orientation of how you should hand plane. But see, I can actually do that. Or I can do this with this plane. And that's the beauty of these smaller planes. I normally lift the plane before returning it, so I don't wear the blade out more than I have to. So I don't have to rehone it as often. There are two schools of thought. You should be able to drag it back, or the other school of thought is lift it and start over again. So what else can I show you? This is an old record plane. I'm not even sure if it's adjusted, but actually it's perfectly adjusted. This is a very inexpensive plane that's widely available, and if properly sharpened and adjusted, it works really well, as you can see. That's a beautiful shaving. Exactly the width of the edge. So what I'll do is remove this stop, the bird's mouth stop, the original one back in. See if it works with this plane. Also, this, oh beauty, it works well. Maybe I should use this more often. So I'll retract the blade on this. So I did go ahead and adjust one of my smaller wooden-bodied smoothers to using my planing hammer, specifically designed for wooden-bodied planes. So if you tap it at the back, the actual blade retracts, and if you tap the blade itself, it engages below the surface of the sole, and then you just lock it in. So after, again, I've got it skewed, but this is how wooden-bodied hand planes work. So if I tap it at the back, lock it, it'll be a slightly lighter cut, and if I keep tapping it, eventually the blade retracts above the surface of the sole, so I have to restart the process. Put that aside and use it. I'll be using this piece of maple on edge to demonstrate how I would normally joint the edge of a board. So I'll actually use my number 4 record. This is what I would normally do. Now I'm just using a smoother plane, but I normally wouldn't use a smoother plane again because the length of the sole is short, so it goes over any bumps and hollows as opposed to smoothing them out. So plane I would normally use is it's a large jack plane, or 4-plane, which also doubles as a small jointer. So this is the plane I would use, and I keep my hand along the edge to ensure that it's sitting. The edge is square to the face of the board. You can see the shaving is clean now. So the important thing to pay attention to is to ensure the width of the shaving is exactly the width of the edge of the board, and then you know you've. There we go. In the next video lecture, I'll talk about more the actual techniques, hand planing techniques, as opposed to introducing you to hand planes. There's quite a bit more involved in ensuring that this is perfectly flat and square to both faces. So it's critical if you're actually gluing two boards together on edge. So thank you for watching.